Hi, I'm Keith Geller. I'm here in my own garden with the Northwest Horticultural Society to talk about concepts and principles of landscape design. With these ideas, we should get a better understanding of how to create garden spaces for people and for plants. Here we are at the lowest part of the garden itself, at the sidewalk level. So what I'd like to point out here is that it's like a small public space that I've created with the planting of the maple and the dwarf Scots pine and the large hebe in the background here, and then the upwardness of this whole hillside. So it creates a sense of stopping, looking up at the staircase before you go, and a sense of arrival to a place. This staircase at the beginning of the garden by the sidewalk represents one of the concepts and principles of landscape design that I created on the list. And that is the 1/3, 2/3 relationship. And we just climbed up the 2/3 portion of the staircase, and then we have a platform, and then we veer in a different direction, and then going up the 1/3 portion. So what this does, it breaks up the space. Instead of having one straight line agonizingly going up the hill, we have two different weights of experience, one larger, one smaller. And that way we change directions and we get a more of an experiential walk through this canopy of native plant material. As we round the corner from the front entry garden, past this vine maple, then we get a larger view of this woodland garden and the entry into the garden, defined by the canopy of this beautiful witch hazel, the dogwood, the cornuscusa, and magnolia cobus right overhead here too. But the bulk of this garden is the layering system higher up of the river birches, whose trunks you can see really artistically standing out, very eye-catching. The multiple trunks of 3 river birches appears like a little forest in a way, creates this wonderful focal point as you're walking into the garden from the alley especially, and looking down at an angle, seeing this large canopy and trunk system coming up over the house. So the house fits into the garden in good scale with respect to the size of the river birches. As I'm walking to the end of the woodland garden, I'm getting a signal in a way by a more formal plant. This upright yew signals to me that the change of space is about to happen into a courtyard with a cross axes. So this is a transitional space that's compatible on both sides of the plant. On the garden side where the woodland area is, and on the more formal area coming up with the potted yew plants. The upright yew not only blocks the view of this next space with a little bit of a surprise around the corner, but it also acts as a spatial divider from informality of a woodland garden to more formality with a sculpture that we see right here. on axis with the breakfast nook, French doors, and steps coming down. So it's a cross axis compared to the regular, more long forward path. So as we walk up to the next level, we'll be entering the largest space in the garden for people to be in. And we'll have a look at that and how that's subdivided as well. And so now we're in the back garden again, and we're seeing that this is one of the largest spaces in the garden. And this represents one of the concepts of hierarchy of spaces for different numbers of people. So this is a 4 or 6 person space, as opposed to just beyond where it's only a 2-person space. So this larger space represents the 2/3 of the space of the back area of the house in the garden, and the space that we'll enter just in another minute is the 1/3 space. So the smaller space for less numbers of people. Again, more and different experiences for different numbers of people. So let's go and look at the 1/3 space and how that has an effect. The path is getting narrower, differing from the 2/3 of a space that you can get a view of in a second through this 1/3 space. Much bigger open space for most of the back garden. And we'll look at that area too and how that's subdivided into 1/3, 2/3. The studio also represents a nice visual quality, both from the garden to the building, as well as from the building into the garden. In renovating it, I found these old windows from an early 20th century building and salvaged those windows, so it's all the old glass, and looking out into the garden as I'm drafting or reading or what. It's a nice edge. My studio was once the garage that we couldn't actually take a right angle turn to get into it. So it became my studio. We opened up a door into the garden in this foyer area right here. But its relationship to the house is quite nice because it provides a nice walkway, which instead of being straight is now curved with the edging of the hardscape and the garden bed, as well as creating this nice space right here between the two buildings. So we have the nice window with the pine tree in front of it to be a nice view into orange bark, and small layering system with canopies here from the studio and then exiting the house. One of the prominent things about coming in from the back gate is that you can see the layering system in this garden, from the river birches, the very large trunks in the background, all layering over different heights of other smaller trees like the maples and dogwoods and even Tasmanian pepperbush. So we have that layering system happening, which is important to an intimate garden as well as a concept to try to create more experience and interest. As well as the trunks were capturing, before the Tasmanian pepperbush got so big, the trunks were capturing one's eye as you walk through the door. And notice that the trees are planted to the left of the house by the property edge, and their arching comes off and above to the right, enclosing you as a person, intimate scale, walking down near them and underneath them. If they were on the wrong side, then your eye would go off out of the property. So that's very important itself.